example, you'll discover that humans are mortal and you're mortal. So you're going to recognize the fact that you're going to die at some point and that your time on this earth is very, very limited. You're going to recognize that in that very short lifespan, no matter how long it is, 100 years or 15, it's always too short. And that one lifetime that you have is characterized, it's bookmarked, and throughout it's also characterized by pain and suffering, that life is suffering, and that we don't get to choose not to suffer, but we can choose hopefully what it is that we're going to suffer for. And then you look around the world and you realize how many people are numbing themselves away from the fact, the truth, that they're going to die and that life is suffering. Think about how much of our life is geared towards entertainment to try to distract ourselves from the life that we're presently living. How can you possibly excel in this life if you load your life up with distractions from it, entertainment? Well, you simply, it's a silly question to ask. I can just answer it. You can't. How much time a day do you think, name your favorite business leader, how much time a day do you think they spend on entertainment, being distracted from their businesses? Think about your favorite athlete. Think about your favorite musician, your favorite whatever. How much time a day do they spend on entertainment, being distracted from the thing that they're actually living for? Let me ask, I'm not sure to ask this question. Do you know what he struggled with, like a lot, that almost made it impossible for him to be a scientist, interestingly? It's not what almost anybody will think of. Arrogance. He was such an arrogant jerk that nobody wanted to work with him. So this is why when he starts to develop his theory of relativity, he's working as a clerk. He's not working as a physicist. He's not working at a university. He's working as a clerk because it's almost impossible to work with the guy. His theories ended up getting heard because some people get a hold of them and then they're the ones who kind of help him along, but that's because his attitude has changed a lot. And so it's almost like he had to get humbled quite a bit before he was able to be heard. And that's really hard, man, if you're an exceptional talent, to have to accept the fact that you have to be humbled a little bit in order to be elevated. Because especially, think about the kind of people who ask for humility. I can think of this example. So first period today, I gave them the wrong quote. I gave them the 12th grade quote. So a completely different quote from this one, but I still use the same example. If Michael Jordan comes in here right now, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Michael Jordan. It's the greatest, he's the greatest of all time. And Jordan says, no, I don't know about the greatest. Kobe was great, LeBron's great. I worked hard and I tried the best I could. We'd all sit there and go, oh, so wonderful. He's so humble. What a great guy. Michael Jordan walks in, and I say, dude, it's Michael Jordan, the greatest of all time. And he says, in the flesh, greatest who ever lived, maybe the greatest who ever will be. How do we feel about that guy?
Right, jerk.
Yeah, what a jerk. We hate that guy. It's the same guy. It's the same accomplishments. But for some reason, we like the first guy who lies to us and treats us like we're idiots. And consider why. I'll leave it to you to figure out in our personalities why it is that we prefer the liar who pretends to be humble rather than the person who tells the absolute truth, regardless of how it makes us feel. Why is it that we like that person? And if you think about, for example, if you know the story of Michael Jordan, actually, not even Michael Jordan, almost any professional athlete, if you think about what it takes to get to that level, the level of sacrifice, hard work, the amount of pain and suffering, and all the time that some of us are spending staring at screens, they're in the weight room. A lot of time that we're spending staring at screens, they're out there practicing their craft. A lot of times if we're laying in bed watching something on our screens, complaining about how bored we are, they're staring at their screens, but they're watching film to try to get better. In other words, it's two completely different life trajectories. And you think of all of the work it takes to get to be a great athlete. Are they not entitled to tell the truth, which is, I'm the greatest of all time? I'm one of the greatest of all time? Yes, I'm the greatest in the room. Why do we try to take that away from them? And we take it away from them to make ourselves feel better, perhaps, versus the person who just straight up tells the truth. Because if you're going to be great in anything, he's here talking about pain and suffering are inevitable for a large intelligence, because you can't have a large intelligence and not suffer those things. Because what does a large intelligence do? It pursues truth. It pursues, as you're saying, it pursues experiences. There's some of you who, I'm sure, you just have to know why for everything. Why does the earth spin the way that it does? Why is it that 3 days ago Venus was right next to the moon, looked right next to the moon, and yet last night it looked like they were way far apart? Why is that happening? Why is it that Venus looks brighter during certain times than others? Why is it that? And you're always pursuing those whys. And if you are, then that means that you're constantly engaged in this thing of living life, because you're trying to understand the world around you. Sure, there's also something maybe that emerges out of you, but at the very least it's curiosity. But the more curious you get, the more you investigate. The more you investigate, the more you discover. And what you discover is, well, for example, you'll discover that humans are mortal and you're mortal. So you're going to recognize the fact that you're going to die at some point, and that your time on this earth is very, very limited. You're going to recognize that in that very short lifespan, no matter how long it is, 100 years or 15, it's always too short. And that one lifetime that you have is characterized, it's bookmarked, and throughout it's also characterized by pain and suffering, that life is suffering, and that we don't get to choose not to suffer, but we can choose hopefully what it is that we're going to suffer for. And then you look around the world and you realize how many people are numbing themselves away from the fact, the truth, that they're going to die and that life is suffering. Think about how much of our life is geared towards entertainment, to try to distract ourselves from the life that we're presently living. How can you possibly excel in this life if you load your life up with distractions from it, entertainment? Well, it's a silly question to ask. I can just answer it. You can't. How much time a day do you think, name your favorite business leader. How much time a day do you think they spend on entertainment, being distracted from their businesses? Think about your favorite athlete. Think about your favorite musician, your favorite whatever. How much time a day do they spend on entertainment, being distracted from the thing that they're actually living for? That's, of course, they're an entertainer. That is their medium. To be aware of life is to be aware that it's short. To be aware of life is to be aware that it's short. And to be aware that it's short is to be aware of all of the things that characterize it. Is life only suffering? No, of course not. But man, you can't help but see it. And you see it all over the world around us. It takes a very strong, how do you say it? The character trait empathy, the ability to feel what other people feel. Interestingly enough, don't raise hands. If I were to ask you how many of you are empathetic people, how many of you feel empathy, this is a really neat thing. Well, maybe neat. We can correlate your IQ to your ability to feel empathy. In other words, the more intelligent a person is, the more likely they are to be empathetic, to feel for other people. Because the ability to do that is the ability to take yourself out of yourself and think about other people. I think I've mentioned before, if any of you guys babysit little kids, one of the ways that you can tell when a kid is really intelligent is how early they start lying. Little kids, the more intelligent the little kid is, the earlier they start lying. Why? Because they understand something that other little kids don't understand. I can change your behavior with words. I don't have to change the whole world. All I gotta do is just lie, just say something that isn't true, and I can get you to do what I want you to do. I can control you with words. In other words, what that means is they understand that they know something that you don't know. And that's a really advanced concept for kids to get through their heads. Some people, and I'm not kidding, some people don't get that through their heads until they're in their 20s and 30s, 40s. Some people get it when they're like 5. And that's how you can tell who the really intelligent ones are. And part of the ability to understand the psychology of another is to be able to put yourself in their shoes. So what you're going to find is that people who don't care about other people tend to, nothing is everything, but they tend to have low IQs, low intelligence. So one of the ways that you can start to maximize your intelligence is exactly that, to try to put yourself into the shoes of other people, to feel what they're feeling, to understand what they're going through. And if you're a person who does that naturally, congratulations. You're probably more intelligent than the average person. Now that doesn't mean that if you walk around being an emotional wreck, it isn't just that you feel for them, like you're just sad. It's that you feel for what other people are feeling. You can see what they're going through and understand it. And so what he's saying here is true from a logical standpoint. It's also true from an emotional standpoint. Large intelligence and deep hearts, because the great people have to have great sadness on earth. Think about who the greatest people were. Why did they do what they did? You think about somebody like Martin Luther King Jr. This guy dies on a balcony in Memphis, right? Anybody know why he was in town, why he was on that balcony in the first place? It's an incredible story. The guy was in town because there were some garbage workers who were on strike. So he went there to support them. That's it. That's it. You know those garbage workers who many of us look at and we're like, oh, I would never do that job. That job sucks. We make fun of them. When you're a little kid, oh, your dad's a garbage worker or something like that. He didn't think of that. He had a deep heart for them. He was in town supporting them, and it cost him his life. I guarantee you, if you'd asked that guy, would you rather skip this meeting? He would probably still go. And this is a guy who had an earned doctorate by the time he was, 25 years old, I think, something like that. This is a guy who was so incredibly powerful with his words that he could convince people to go sit at a lunch counter, get dragged off, beaten by cops, bitten by dogs, hosed down, and not fight back. You know how persuasive you have to be to get someone to do that? Think about it, if this guy had taken all of his intelligence, if he had taken all of his people skills and put them into the private sector, how much money do you think that guy could have made? Yeah. But instead what happens? He dies on a balcony supporting striking garbage workers. You suppose that guy had a deep heart? You suppose he suffered from great sadness on this earth? Of course, because what motivated him? It was that sadness of seeing his people suffer unjustly. Seeing your people suffer justly is different. Seeing your people suffer unjustly, that's the real hard one, man. And so that's why he dies. And you start thinking about all of the great people throughout history, that's why a lot of them die. They're motivated by a sadness to make things better, to improve the lots of people. And some of the hardest things, by the way, is when you want to improve the lives of people who don't want their lives improved. And why do people oftentimes want their lives improved? Because they lack the ability to see the bigger picture. They don't think they're capable of more. I was just talking to a former student. He's in 11th year, and he had him as a 10th grader last year. And he's looking at colleges and universities. The guy has, I guess, a 4.0. He's even taking some AP classes this year. This dude's really smart. One of the smart people I've had as a student. Top, 25, 30 for sure, no doubt. And he's asking like what colleges he should go to. And the guy could certainly go to a UC school. The guy could certainly go to a private school. And yet he's letting people kind of push him towards other public schools. And then, it's like San Diego State. It's not terrible. It's fine. But the lowest ranked UC is still higher than the highest ranked Cal State. It's a better system, and you go there for a specific reason. Bless you. This guy was just telling me, I don't know, but I hear it's harder. It's like 10, you guys do quarters instead of semesters. He's like looking at all the things that make it harder, and he's asking me, that makes it harder, right? And I said, yes, of course. If it was easier, do you think that the smarter people would go there if it was easier? But he has trouble seeing himself as one of the smarter people. And so that, hopefully, he'll overcome that. And I know that some of you already, I already know it from interacting with some of you and hearing things about some of you that you struggle to understand what you could be. And that you let those not for me kind of things get in your mind. You have low grades. So what? Do better now. Oh, I didn't, my reading isn't great. Make it better now. Now fix it. If you want to. If you really want to. But first thing is you have to be able to see how it makes your life better and how your life could be better. And how that better life will provide a better life for the families that many of you hope to have one day. Because whatever decisions you make right now are going to impact those children you haven't had yet. They will come into this world, and you will have to hold them someday. And you will have to look at them, and you will have to lie to them, many people, by saying something like, I did the best I could for you. Bullshit. Because you're going to know that you didn't. And that's the thing that tears a parent's heart sometimes, is that we know we didn't do everything we could have. Couldn't we have done a little bit more? Couldn't you have done a little bit more? Yeah. All of that starts as soon as possible. That's what gives you that head start towards getting there. So, but that's that big heart to feel what other people feel. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Neat. Happy Wednesday, huh? Almost.